So this guy has a channel which defends Marxism, even the violent offshoots of that, and he produced two videos defending Che Guevara, the guy who leftists hate being called a dictator, even though he had a personal militia of 100,000 people. Remember, according to CIA documents, Cuba had around estimated 200,000 strong military in early 1980s and had around 90,000 active personnel in 2015. But first, let's take a look at what he has to say with regards to Pinochet and see whether we can catch Marxist lie in action.
Popular unity violent? And was Allende being undemocratic? No. Allende and his party were not violent, nor were they associated with any violent groups. The actual violent leftist groups of the time, such as the MIR, were opposed to popular unity and Allende. This was because they disapproved of the democratic path that he was taking towards socialism, believing that the only viable path was violent revolution.
Now let us look at actual sources. Although the MIR did not isolate itself from the masses and had a policy of quiet support for Allende, in 1970 they did not join his coalition. They remained on the outside, tied to the developing popular movements. The MIR believed that Allende's election has created the possibility of unmasking and breaking up the pseudo-democratic game of the bourgeois. The MIR believed that the revolutionary struggle must be armed. They also believed that the bourgeois would resort to all means in order to win. In response, the MIR believed that in order to obtain power, a class struggle had to be developed and revolutionary ideas had to be accepted by the masses. In this sense, the MIR played a radicalizing role in order to confront reaction, defend the conquests of popular advance, and develop the class struggle. The MIR called for unity of left forces. As elections drew nearer in 1970, the MIR was in contradictory position. The MIR did not believe that Allende had much of a chance of being elected, and even if he was elected, the MIR did not believe that a peaceful transition to socialism could be successful. Yet the MIR was also given benign tolerance by Allende and his family, which at times provided safe houses for members on the run. Despite this tolerance, Allende was worried that the MIR's action could harm his chances for election, especially since he needed the backing of the legalistic CP as part of his coalition. Allende ended up meeting with MIR leader Enriquez to put a stop to bank robberies, and the MIR agreed not to abstain from elections and say that their members could vote for the UP. The MIR went as far as to provide a bodyguard to Allende in 1970 when there was a fear that he was going to be assassinated. Contrary to MIR expectations, Allende was elected and his program began to be put into effect. Once elected, Allende also lifted the ban on the MIR. The MIR did not let their earlier cautious support for Allende keep them from playing an active role in the class struggle. For instance, Allende was hoping to carry out a steady and gradual land reform in the countryside. The MIR group in the countryside pushed for seizures, which led to clashes. Allende was calling for order but told MIR members behind the scenes to continue their seizures to push reform ahead. The MIR was putting into effect their strategy of mass action and raising consciousness. Allende's coalition partners, not to mention the landowners, opposed the MIR's actions. The MIR's intelligence had also alerted them to coup plans in the army and they began actively organizing to stop them. The MIR let it be known to the UP in the July 1973 that they were willing to defend Allende against a coup attempt. Yet they sought popular mobilization in order to thwart a coup, even going so far as to contemplate their own preemptive strike, despite not having enough strength to carry it out. Around this time, the MAPU-NSP left were converging with the MIR. Despite this, the wider left was not converging around the MIR but remained committed to Allende and the legal road. Castro was not arming the MIR either. He was on the side of Allende. Now let us look at some facts. So, one of the facts is that the nephew of President Allende was actually the one who formed MIR along with another co-founder. MIR supported Allende and Allende made deals with them. MIR fought with Allende's troops to protect his presidency from the coup. But according to the supposed standard, because Allende himself was not violent, though he allowed seizure of land, a lot of land illegally, though he was supported by and himself supported the MIR, and members of MIR fought with him to secure his presidency against the coup, he still could not be said to be taking the violent path. If you are wondering where I got all of this from, it is from a leftist site, the link for which will be in the description below. The funny thing about all of this is that violent Marxist side wants to show itself as a natural friend of peaceful Marxist side, and thus undoes the historic revision done by the peaceful comrades. It is the same as Allende trying to distance himself from violent groups, but making deals with them behind the back of everybody. But all of this shows the lies that the supposed peace-loving Marxists tell as they prepare to conduct a bloody revolution, exactly as Marx wanted.